All right, let's dive in. This time you've sent over something really interesting
Yeah.
about the Camino de Santiago.
Oh, wow.
And it seems like you're getting ready for a pretty amazing adventure. You shared some pieces, like excerpts from a guidebook for pilgrims,
Uh-huh.
and it really focuses on the spiritual part of the journey. And I have to say, it's
Yeah.
making me pretty curious.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. I mean, this guidebook, it doesn't just tell you, like,
Yeah.
how to pack your backpack or where to stay.
Right.
It really goes deep into how to make the Camino
Yeah.
like a truly transformative experience,
Yeah, like a pilgrimage for the
Okay.
soul, not just for the body.
Yeah, exactly.
I was really intrigued by how they emphasize walking itself as like a form of meditation.
Oh,
They
yeah.
even talk about syncing your breath with your steps,
Uh-huh.
creating like a moving mantra.
That's a really cool concept, actually.
Yeah, it is.
There's actually a lot of research in neuroscience now that shows how rhythmic movement can actually calm the mind.
Interesting.
It's almost like, when you listen to the rhythm of ocean waves,
Right.
it's very calming.
Right.
Kind of creates that sense of peace, which then allows for, deeper thought.
So it's not just some like mystical idea. There's
Yeah.
actual science behind it.
Exactly, yeah.
That makes me want to like lace up my boots right now.
Like me too.
Yeah, just head out the door. But the guidebook doesn't just stop at walking meditation.
Oh.
They also suggest things like breathing exercises
Right.
and gratitude journaling. It feels very much like it's in line with,
Yeah,
the whole mindfulness trend. What do you think?
absolutely. It's all about bringing that awareness to every aspect of the Camino, right?
Yeah.
And I think the breathing technique they mentioned is especially interesting.
Oh, tell me about it.
Inhale for 4 counts, hold for 2, and then exhale for 6.
Okay.
It's so simple, but it's
Mhm.
really powerful.
I'm actually trying it right now. And yeah, I can already feel
Yeah.
kind of a sense of calm washing over me.
Yeah.
I can see how incorporating this into the walk, even just for a few minutes each day,
Yeah,
could make a huge difference.
sure. I think it's about finding those moments of stillness, right?
Yeah.
Even amidst all the physical exertion.
Right.
Allowing your mind to settle a bit
Yeah.
so you can really absorb the experience.
The guidebook also really emphasizes the importance of setting daily intentions.
Oh, interesting.
But I'm wondering, with all the challenges of the walk already,
Yeah.
wouldn't that kind of add like extra pressure?
That's a good question.
Could trying to force a spiritual experience like actually backfire?
Yeah, I see what you mean. I think the key here is not to see intentions as like
Right.
rigid goals.
Okay.
It's more about like
Hmm.
guiding principles.
Yeah. Okay.
You're setting a general direction for the day.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you're focusing on being more present or being open to new experiences.
Okay.
But you have to allow yourself to be flexible
Right.
and adapt to whatever, the journey throws your way.
So it's more like a
Like something-
compass than a
Right up.
detailed itinerary. I
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
But the Camino isn't just about like solo reflection, is it?
No, not at all.
The guidebook also talks a lot about the communal aspect, the
Right.
shared experience of the pilgrimage.
Yeah, it's a really important part of it. They highlight things like,
Yeah.
group breathing exercises or sharing journal entries.
Mm.
And this actually resonates with like ancient pilgrimage traditions
Real.
that you find across so many cultures.
Interesting.
There's something really powerful, I think, about
Yeah.
journeying together towards a sacred destination.
It makes you think about the human need for connection,
Absolutely.
especially in the context of such a physically and emotionally demanding journey.
Yeah, from a psychological perspective,
Yeah.
shared rituals like these can really strengthen bonds
Uh-huh.
and create this sense of belonging,
Yeah.
which is incredibly powerful. It's like the Camino amplifies that feeling of community,
Right.
a shared purpose.
This makes me think about the significance of certain locations along the Camino,
Yeah,
like the Cathedral of Santiago de Compostela.
of course, yeah.
I remember reading about the like intense emotions pilgrims experience
Yeah.
when they finally reach it.
It's not just a physical destination, is it?
Right.
It's the culmination of, weeks of effort.
Uh-huh.
It's a symbol of achieving something
Yeah.
that you might have thought was impossible.
Yeah.
So it's no wonder that people are just like overcome with emotion when they get there.
The guidebook also mentions other locations along the way, like holy springs and ancient monasteries.
Mhm.
What's the spiritual significance of those?
I'm glad you brought those up.
Yeah.
Each of those places actually holds a very unique energy,
Oh.
and they offer a different kind of spiritual encounter.
Oh, okay.
The Holy Springs, for example.
Yeah.
They've been associated with healing and purification for centuries.
Huh.
Imagine, like, pausing during your journey
Yeah.
to drink from or even bathe in these waters.
Okay.
It becomes a symbolic act of cleansing,
Right.
of shedding old burdens,
Hmm.
embracing renewal.
That's beautiful imagery. And what about the monasteries? What role do they play?
They offer a space for contemplation and retreat.
Hmm.
You're stepping out of the flow of the Camino for a bit,
Okay.
and you get a chance to reconnect with yourself
Yeah.
in a setting that's, specifically dedicated to spiritual practice.
Right.
It's like a mini pilgrimage within the larger journey.
That's fascinating. It's like the Camino offers like a multi-layered
Yeah,
spiritual experience with
exactly.
each location providing like a different kind of encounter,
Right.
different lesson. But the journey is also marked by symbols, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely.
The guidebook mentions a few.
Yeah.
The scallop shell, the yellow arrow, the stone piles.
Uh-huh.
It's almost like a secret language for pilgrims.
It is. And what's so fascinating is how even these really simple objects
Right.
can take on this really profound meaning
Yeah.
in the context of a journey like this.
Take the scallop shell, for example.
Okay.
I knew it was practical. You can drink from it and everything.
Right.
But I never really realized it had like a deeper meaning.
Well, it's really fascinating. Legend has it
Yeah.
that the scallop shell was associated with
What?
Venus, the Roman goddess of love and beauty,
Okay.
emerging from the sea.
Right.
And over time, it became connected to pilgrimage,
Mm.
symbolizing rebirth and spiritual transformation.
So when pilgrims wear that shell, they're not just showing that they've walked the Camino.
Exactly.
They're embodying that idea of transformation, of
Yeah.
emerging anew.
That's so powerful.
Yeah.
It is. It's like a visual reminder of the inner journey that
Yeah.
they've undertaken.
And then you have the yellow arrow.
Yes.
Seemingly so simple,
Yeah.
but so impactful.
Yeah.
I remember reading that it was actually introduced by a priest
Mm-hmm.
just to, help people stay on track.
Yeah.
It's so interesting how something so practical
Right.
can also become like a spiritual symbol.
Well, think about it. You're walking for miles and miles.
Yeah.
Maybe you're feeling a little lost or
Uh.
uncertain.
Yeah.
And then you see that splash of yellow
Right?
pointing the way.
Uh-huh.
And it becomes this symbol of hope, of reassurance that you're on the right path.
It's a physical manifestation of the guidance and support you find
Yeah.
along the Camino, both from fellow pilgrims and maybe even from something bigger.
Absolutely.
And then there are the stone piles, the cairns, that people create along the way.
Yes.
Each stone representing like a prayer or a wish,
Mm-hmm.
a moment of reflection. It's like the physical manifestation of the collective energy
Yeah.
of all the pilgrims who have walked the path before you.
Exactly.
It connects you to
Yeah.
something larger,
It does.
to the shared history of the Camino.
It's also a really powerful reminder
Yeah.
of the personal journeys
Right.
that make up that collective experience.
Right.
Each stone represents an individual story,
Yeah.
a moment of struggle or of triumph.
Yeah.
It's quite moving, actually.
It makes me think about how the guidebook encourages pilgrims to personalize their spiritual practice. There's no like one-size-fits-all approach, is there?
Not at all.
They suggest things like journaling,
Uh-huh.
setting intentions, even artistic expression
Yeah.
as ways to connect with
Right.
that deeper part of yourself.
Exactly.
The key is to
Yeah.
find what resonates with you,
Right.
what helps you tap into that sense of the sacred.
And they actually offer some really helpful prompts,
Oh, okay.
especially for journaling,
And
which
the
can
package.
feel kind of daunting
Yeah.
if you're not used to it.
What do they suggest?
Well, they encourage you to really reflect on your experiences
Huh?
and ask yourself questions like,
Yeah.
what did I learn about myself today?
Okay.
Or how did I connect with the world around me?
Those are great questions.
Right.
It's like having a conversation with your own soul
Yeah.
as you walk,
Exactly.
unpacking the layers of the journey.
Yeah. But they also stress the importance of
Mhm.
not getting too caught up
Okay.
in the structure.
All right.
Sometimes the most profound insights come when you least expect them,
Yeah.
in those moments of quiet contemplation or
Um,
spontaneous connection.
so it's about finding that balance
Yeah,
between structured practice and open receptivity,
exactly.
being prepared for
Yeah.
those unexpected flashes of insight.
It's a challenge,
Yeah, it sounds like it.
but it's incredibly rewarding.
That sounds like a great place to take a pause. And
Yeah.
we'll come back to this conversation
Sounds good.
in just a bit.
All right.
So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
We'll be right back.
Okay, so we were talking about the significance of certain locations along the Camino.
Yes.
And we briefly touched on the Cathedral of Santiago de Compostela, which
Yes.
seems to be like this ultimate destination.
Yeah, it really is like the heart of the Camino.
Yeah, it's not just a building, is it?
No, not at all.
It represents like the culmination of the whole journey,
Exactly.
both physically and spiritually.
Yeah.
The guidebook talks about how it's a place where pilgrims often experience like really intense emotions.
You can imagine, right?
Yeah.
After weeks of walking, facing all those challenges,
Yeah.
and really reflecting on your life,
Uh-huh.
you finally arrive at this magnificent cathedral
Right.
that has been a beacon
Yeah.
for pilgrims for centuries.
Mhm.
It's like this symbol of achievement, of perseverance,
Yeah.
and of connecting to something so much bigger than yourself.
It's almost like a physical manifestation
Right.
of the transformation they've gone through.
Exactly.
But the guidebook highlights other locations along the way, too,
Yeah.
that have spiritual significance.
Right.
Places that maybe get overlooked a bit, with everyone focused on reaching the cathedral.
Yeah, for sure.
They mention Holy Springs, for instance.
Those are really fascinating. They're not just sources of water,
Right.
They represent this idea of purification and healing.
Mm.
The guidebook suggests that pilgrims see pausing at these springs
Yeah.
to drink from them, or maybe even bathe in the water
Right.
as a way to cleanse themselves, both physically and spiritually.
It's such a beautiful ritual, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It ties into the idea of the Camino being a journey of renewal, of
Ooh.
shedding those old burdens and embracing a fresh start.
Yeah,
It's almost like a baptism of sorts.
right. And it actually connects with traditions that you find across so many different cultures around the world.
Really?
Water has always been a powerful symbol of cleansing and rebirth.
That's true.
Think about the significance of rivers in Hinduism
Right.
or
Yeah.
the mikveh in Judaism.
Yeah.
It seems like across all these different belief systems,
Yeah.
water holds this sacred power to wash away impurities
Uh-huh.
and to make us whole again.
So even though the Camino is steeped in Christian tradition,
Yeah,
it also taps into something universal,
absolutely.
something that resonates with people
Yes.
from all different backgrounds.
I think so.
The guidebook also mentions monasteries along the route.
Mm-hmm.
What role do they play in the whole spiritual journey?
Well, they offer a space for retreat and contemplation.
Okay.
Imagine you've been walking for days, surrounded by all these other pilgrims.
Yeah.
The monasteries offer a chance to step back a little
Yeah.
from that communal aspect
Right.
and just reconnect with your inner self
Okay.
in a setting that's dedicated to spiritual practice.
So it's like hitting the pause button on the outward journey
Yeah.
to go deeper into the inner one.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Do they offer like specific practices or teachings?
It depends, really.
Yeah.
Some monasteries have structured retreats,
Okay.
or they might offer you the opportunity to participate in communal prayer.
Mm-hmm.
Others just provide a quiet space for reflection and solitude.
Right.
It really depends on the specific monastery
Okay.
and what resonates with the individual pilgrim.
There are so many layers, it seems, to the spiritual experience of the Camino.
Yeah.
It's not just about reaching the cathedral, is it?
Huh.
It's about those smaller encounters along the way, the moments of quiet contemplation,
Yeah.
the rituals and the symbols that guide you.
Right. And the guidebook really acknowledges that
Yeah.
each person's spiritual journey is unique.
Right.
They encourage pilgrims to find their own way to connect with the sacred.
Okay.
They suggest things like journaling and setting intentions as tools for self-discovery.
So it's like they're providing a toolbox,
Yeah,
but it's up to the individual to decide
exactly.
which tools to use and how.
That's a good way to put it.
But they do offer some guidance, though, right?
They do.
Especially for journaling, which can feel
Yes.
kind of daunting if you're not used to it.
Right. They offer some really thought-provoking prompts to help people get started.
Like what?
For example, they suggest reflecting on questions like,
Yeah.
what surprised me today?
Okay.
Or what am I learning about myself on this journey?
Those are great.
Yeah,
Those are good starting points.
right. It encourages you to go beyond just describing like what you did
Yeah.
and really examine like your inner landscape,
Right.
how you're changing and growing along the way.
They also emphasize not getting too hung up on the structure, though.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
They remind pilgrims that sometimes those most profound insights,
Okay.
they come when you least expect them.
Right.
In those moments of quiet contemplation or those
Yeah.
spontaneous connections that you make.
Yeah.
It's about being open to the unexpected,
Right.
to those whispers of wisdom that might arise when you're not even looking for them.
So, again, it's about finding that balance
Yeah.
between structure and spontaneity,
Exactly.
between effort and surrender.
It's a dance.
Yeah.
The Camino is a constant dance between these opposing forces.
And that's where the magic lies, isn't it?
I think so.
In that space between what we can control and
Yeah.
what we can't.
Right.
Between what we expect
Yeah.
and what we discover.
Exactly. The Camino invites us to embrace that uncertainty,
Right.
to let go of our preconceived notions
Yeah.
and just allow ourselves to be transformed by the journey.
This whole deep dive has been so eye-opening for me. I feel like I've learned so much, not just about the Camino itself,
Yeah.
but also about the power of pilgrimage,
Right.
the importance of connecting with ourselves
Yeah.
and with something larger than ourselves.
It's a journey that really stays with you
Yeah,
long after you've returned
I
home.
bet it does.
It kind of plants a seed. This longing for something more.
Yeah.
This reminder that the spiritual journey, it's not a destination.
Right.
It's like this lifelong
I
exploration.
think that's the most valuable takeaway from this whole guidebook.
What do you?
It's that invitation to embrace the journey
Yeah.
with all of its challenges and rewards,
Uh-huh.
and to trust that the path, even when it feels uncertain,
Right.
will lead us
Yeah.
exactly where we need to be.
Beautifully said.
Speaking of journeys,
Yeah.
our journey with this deep dive
Oh, right.
is coming to an end.
Oh.
But we would love to hear your reflections.
Wow.
What resonated with you? What questions do you still have?
Yeah. Tell us.
Share your thoughts with us on social media,
Yeah.
and let's keep this conversation going.
Let's do it.
Until next time,
Yeah.
may your journeys, both inner and outer,
Uh-huh.
be filled with meaning and discovery.
We were talking about the importance of community on the Camino.
Yeah, it seems kind of counterintuitive.
Really?
You'd think a journey like the Camino, with so much emphasis on introspection
Fine.
and solitude,
Yeah.
would be all about the individual experience.
Right.
But this guidebook keeps coming back to the idea of community.
Well, it's not really a contradiction, is it?
No.
Think about it. You're walking your own path.
Yeah.
You're facing your own internal challenges,
Yeah.
but you're doing it alongside all these other people who are engaged in a similar process.
Okay.
And there's a real sense of like shared understanding there.
Right.
A sense of camaraderie that kind of emerges organically from that.
Yeah. It's like you're all on these parallel journeys,
Yeah.
but the shared experience creates this
Right.
sense of connection.
Exactly.
You're not alone in
Yeah.
the struggle.
And the guidebook even suggests these specific practices, right?
Yeah.
To actually kind of foster that sense of community.
Like what?
Things like, group breathing exercises or sharing journal entries with each other.
Oh.
These practices, they encourage vulnerability
Right.
and they create a space for really deep connection.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing the shared humanity
Uh-huh.
that's beneath all of our individual experiences.
It reminds me of something I read about pilgrimage traditions
Yeah.
in other cultures.
Oh, yeah.
How, the act of journeying together towards a sacred place
Right.
can create a really powerful sense of bonding.
Yeah, it taps into something primal, I think.
Yeah.
Something that's just kind of wired into us as social creatures.
Right.
I mean, we're meant to connect with each other.
Yeah.
Share our stories, support each other through challenges.
And the Camino, with its focus on, simplicity and this shared purpose,
Yeah.
really seems to amplify that.
Absolutely. I think it's like the Camino strips away all those distractions
Right.
and all the superficial layers
Yeah.
that we tend to build up in our everyday lives.
Yeah.
And it allows for these more authentic connections to emerge.
Yeah, that makes sense. But this guidebook doesn't just focus on the communal aspect, right?
No, not at all.
It also encourages pilgrims to personalize their own spiritual practice,
Right.
to find what resonates with them individually.
It's about striking a balance, isn't it?
Yeah.
Recognizing the power of that collective experience,
Right.
but also honoring that unique journey
Yeah.
that each person is on.
The guidebook suggests all sorts of practices,
Yeah.
from journaling to artistic expression, to help pilgrims tap into that deeper part of themselves.
It's like they're giving you this whole buffet of spiritual tools,
Yeah.
And it's up to you to kind of choose what nourishes you the most.
But they do give you some direction, though, right?
They do, yeah.
Especially when it comes to journaling, which can feel kind of
Yeah.
intimidating for some people.
Right. So they offer a lot of helpful prompts, questions to encourage that self-reflection
Uh-huh.
and to help you really make sense of the whole experience.
Like, for example.
Well, for example, they suggest reflecting on things like,
Yeah.
what surprised me today?
Okay.
Or what am I learning about myself on this journey?
Those are great.
Yeah,
They really encourage you to go beyond just describing what you did
exactly.
and to really look at how the experience is shaping you,
Right.
how you're changing and growing.
That's what it's all about.
But they also emphasize not getting too caught up in the structure of it all.
Oh, for sure. They remind people that sometimes the most profound insights, they come when you're not even looking for them.
Uh-huh.
In those quiet moments of contemplation.
Right.
Or those spontaneous connections that just happen.
It's about being open to
Yeah.
the unexpected,
Right,
to
exactly.
those whispers of wisdom that might just pop up out of nowhere.
And being ready to receive them.
So it's about finding that balance again
Always a balance.
between structure and spontaneity,
Yeah,
between effort and surrender.
exactly.
It seems like the Camino is this constant dance
It is.
between these opposing forces.
And honestly, I think that's where the magic lies.
Yeah.
And that space
Yeah.
between what we can control
Yeah.
and what we can't.
Right.
Between what we expect
Uh-huh.
and what we end up discovering.
The Camino's like an invitation to embrace that uncertainty, isn't it?
It is.
To let go of all our preconceived notions and just allow ourselves to be transformed.
That's it.
Well, this has been an amazing deep dive. I feel like I've gotten so much out of it.
I'm glad.
Not just about the Camino,
Yeah.
but about like the power of pilgrimage in general.
Right.
The importance of connecting with ourselves and with
Right.
something bigger.
It's been a pleasure exploring this with you.
Likewise. And to everyone listening, we want to hear from you.
Yes.
What resonated with you?
Right.
What are you still wondering about?
Tell us your thoughts.
Share them with us on social media and
Yeah.
let's keep this conversation going.
Sounds great.
Until next time, may your journeys, both inner and outer, be filled with meaning and discovery.